So this workshop is about thinking about Google Sheets and especially functions, focusing on our high school students. And I am hoping, based on our timing, that we will also be able to have that conversation about how to apply it to open data. Those are my lofty goals. We'll see how we go. All right. Again, very teacher forward. Sorry, we have an agenda. So thinking about context, how can we use this? What is it for? And then we're going to dive in. This is meant to be a full workshop where everyone is participating. We will all be in a spreadsheet together, and then we'll zoom in on that and then zoom back out to think about it as from like a teacher lens, and from that aspect, some applications, conclusions, and then finally any space for thoughts, questions, feelings. That's kind of the general formats that we're going to go with. Okay. So who I am, who my students are, some context. So I teach at the virtual high school for New York City Public Schools at Virtual Innovators Academy. All of my students are virtual. I teach virtually, and I specifically teach chemistry and a Socratic seminar class, which is really what the focus of where we've been doing all of this work is in my Socratic seminar class. And I teach advisory, but that's not quite related to this adventure. And my students, I have about 100 virtual high school students. Our whole school is about 300. It is a brand new school. This year, we will finally have a graduating class. Our students are from all 5 boroughs. I tend to teach 10th through 12th, but we do have 9th through 12th this year. And our students come into this class with very novice skills in terms of spreadsheets, but also in terms of tech. Learning about how to use computers, how to troubleshoot, all of those things can come as part and parcel of being part of a virtual space. And one of our main things that we want to focus on, especially as many of us that are teachers are thinking about NGSS, is focus on critical thinking, critical analysis, right? And any type of quantitative, qualitative analysis. So that's where all of this is like playing into. Is anything there? Please feel free to interrupt, ask questions. I teach on Zoom all day long, so please feel free to just unmute and share. I am notorious for not seeing hands up, so please just unmute. It's the easiest way. So those are my students, and that's me. Okay, I wanted to give a quick timeline on how this applies in the class, and that way we know where we are as we move through. So where we start with this in the Socratic seminar class is we start by critiquing like graphic visuals. How is data represented visually? What do you notice about them? What stands out to you, right? Especially if I can pull from media or other locations, like there's like a Reddit bad graphs, which is a really excellent source for very skewed visuals. And then we talk about bias both in what the visuals are trying to show us and how they're trying to represent certain things as being bigger, smaller, emphasizing different components. And then from there, we discussed how we've been talking about graphs and what they look like and visuals, but also like now we need to talk about how does this data even come up in the first place? So we developed a survey, and during that process, we talked about biases. How are they choosing questions? What are we thinking about? Yes, I love spurious correlations. They are like the best. I agree with you. They're super fun. A little dark sometimes. I wish that there was like a PG version. We developed a survey that we gave out to the rest of the school. And then while we were collecting that data and waiting for it to come back, that is really when we started thinking about how do we build out our skill set? How do we utilize Sheets, in this case Sheets, because Google Sheets is a little bit easier for us to do all together, as a way to learn skills and then be able to apply it to that survey, right? We can't really start analyzing our survey unless we know what in the world we're doing. And that is where we actually are in my class right now, is thinking about the survey analysis. But my hope is that we are going to then shift from that to looking at a set of data on open data that the students choose and analyze that and then present. So that's going from me leading the class to them choosing their data, them analyzing it, and them taking ownership of that data. All right. So we are going to jump in and put ourselves into that space of being a student. So whether this is about learning how to use some skills or whether it is to think about how to apply it, I'm going to give you the space that I gave my students, and we can talk about after the results of it. Would you mind putting that spreadsheet link in the chat? Thank you. So what we're going to do is go ahead and you are going to open that. I'm going to open that. And we're going to do this in the same way that I led it in class, so we can try it out and feel free to critique. And I'm going to encourage you to take a risk, even if things feel maybe a little bit challenging, a little bit hard, maybe a little bit confusing. I encourage you to try anyway. They're zero risk. We get to learn stuff and maybe walk away with a few new skills or some ideas for our own spaces. So that is my hope for you. Okay, so I'm going to open it too. Get to finally get out of that space. I see lots of you. Excellent. I'm glad we're all here. In my class, I actually used my teachers' names, like in the school, but for anonymity, I changed them up. But for them, they found this really fun that I used all of the different teachers' names here and then made up fake scores for them. I thought we probably should be a little bit better about it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is where it says your name, put your name. Claim a spot in column D. So if you are somebody who is not yet familiar with spreadsheets, they are organized vertically by letter and horizontally by number. So go ahead and find a spot. If your box already has a color on it, somebody else is already in there. So find a new spot. You can scroll down as far as you want, but if you get too far, it's going to be hard for me to help you. So that is the first thing. Next thing is that we started from here. So if you are somebody who's more comfortable, you are welcome to get started. If you are somebody who would like to do this together, that's cool too, right? We have space for you to work at whatever space you want. I also put in a little cheat sheet on this end just to help us out. Okay, so I'm going to claim a spot too because it's helpful to have that mimic. So for those of us that are new to functions, the goal of a function is so you don't have to do the work by hand, right? The less work you have to personally do typing in a calculator, writing down, the less likely you are to make an error, right? And 1, 2, you got to do less work, right? So both of those things together are really helpful. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to ask the sheet to do the job for us. And the way we do that is by, I see you all moving through here. Very nice. So some of us are moving with me and some of us are moving ahead. That's cool. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to tell it that we want it to do a job. The way you do that is you put an equal sign. So if you are somebody who's newer to spreadsheets, I recommend you stay on the shared screen. If you are somebody who is moving through, you're welcome to move through. I see that error. Oh, error caught. And so we're going to use an equal sign to say, hey, sheets, I need you to do this job for me. That's the first thing. So we're always going to put an equal sign to say job. The next thing we're going to do is, in this case, the request is, can we find the average? Literally, very conveniently, we're just going to write the word average. Okay. And then we need to tell it where to find this average. So anytime you see that word range, that means, what am I even looking at? Sheets is not that, it's not smarter than us. We got to tell it where to go. So we're going to put a parentheses. And then, so just as like a bouncing in and out, my students really struggled with the click and drag. This was a really hard skill for them. They'd never been asked to do this before. They double clicked, they triple clicked. We had all sorts of clicking errors happening here. So this specifically, we had to be really explicit on about making sure that you don't let go of the click as you go. And so once we have that in there, you can just close your parentheses and press enter. Okay. And so, Brendan, you are really close. I wonder if you started typing it instead of clicking on the range, which is cool. There you go. And so we can start working through these as we move through them. A lot of us are pretty fast. I see you all. So those of us that are moving faster, don't worry. I'm prepared for you. So feel free. You can keep going. I got you on this. I have them scaled up in color. So I don't think that the color, I like the 3 different colors. Feel free. So feel free to escalate as you go. Those of us that want to do this together, though, I'm going to chill out. We're going to do it at our little slower pace, right? I've given you hints at the top to help you out. And the way I ran this is I would have this as a full screen. I would check in with students. I would look for errors. I would see what they wrote and see if we had similar issues going on. And there was always a student that would just copy the answer from their friend. So my rule for that was if I saw something that was not a function and was just a copy, told them I would delete it because these are fake values. So the answer really doesn't matter. It's about the skill. And so they very quickly figured out that putting just an answer down wasn't the goal of this because I really didn't care about the average of these fake values. The goal is for you to figure out how to do an average. And I think that was really helpful for them. Whoop, I see you, Ariana. I saw that error getting resolved. Brendan, I see you fixing that. Fantastic. Ooh, see people putting functions together and putting them all into the same spaces. Don't know who that is. I think it's an anonymous spot. But look at you all moving very quickly. Okay. If you get stuck, this is a really good opportunity to ask any questions that might come up.
I just wanted to say, if it's okay,
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher, but I guess I thought it was interesting that the students hadn't experienced things like click and drag because I guess like middle-aged folks like me think that we're the ones who have the most trouble with that.
That's a fair point. So the first time I taught this, I skipped that because to me, I also was like, this will just, and it was not. It was one of the least intuitive things that they struggled with was figuring out this click and drag part. Because also visually, you're like, I just see you do something. I don't know what the actual physical movement is with it. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I would have thought the typing the formulas in would have been the thing that would have been a little bit alien to them.
That was also an interesting, but you know what? They really like coding. And so many of them really connected with the idea that this was a coding practice, which I didn't introduce it that way because this is my level of coding. I don't have HTML background. Yeah, I am happy to explain anything. But yeah, so it looks like people are on the VLOOKUP. So this one took us a while as well. So VLOOKUP is really cool. VLOOKUP basically says, hey, if I tell you who I'm looking for, can you tell me something about them? And so that's what this does. In this case, y'all, I know I've given you 10 pieces of data. It's not very big. You can eyeball it. I know, but it also means that when you check your formula, you can eyeball if you got it right. Usually, data sets are not 10 lines long. Usually, they're 100, 1,000, 2,000, and then you don't want to be doing this by hand. That's when VLOOKUP is super convenient. So VLOOKUP, right, you're going to tell it a job. So equal sign. You're going to put in your VLOOKUP, V for vertical, and then open parentheses. And I really love the drop-down hint box. I use it all the time. If you are not seeing the hint box, just as a quick note, you probably have a little question mark that's popped up. If you click on it, it'll give you the hint box. And so your search key, in this case, the question is about Candace. So I'm going to put Candace. Oops. In quotation marks, make sure you spell correctly. This catches people. So make sure you're spelling it. Double check it. And then the range, notice that range is back. It's that same range. So here's the thing. Every other one you've done, you only grabbed the pretest scores. But if you take a look in the pretest scores, y'all, there is no Candace in these scores. So there's nothing for it to find. Yeah, see? And so what I need to do is actually include the name inside my range, because otherwise 80 is not Candace, 76 is not Candace. That doesn't make sense. But somewhere in this list, there is Candace. And so I want it to find Candace. And then the next part is the index. Index is saying, once you find what I'm looking for, what do you want back? And so this is where we have to put ourselves into that range space. So the range has column 1, column 2. So we want it to find Candace in column 1 and give me the info in column 2. So I'm going to put a 2 because that's what I want back. Okay. And then is sorted. This one you might want to playlist every once in a while, but basically my data is not organized. So I'm going to put false. You can try it without it and see what happens. You can play with it. And then press enter. Also is really great because you can see if you got a different answer than your friend. You can double check it.
Really quickly, I see we have a hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I'm very bad at the hands up. I always just tell people to just.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, what's up, Helen?
Hi. So I'm still a little confused about the range. I didn't include column B in my lookup. I only included column A, and it seemed to work. And even I could still reference the index column 2 from when I was looking up the scores.
Can you press enter on yours just so I can see your formula? Because while you're in the middle of it, I can't help you troubleshoot.
Oh, okay.
No, just press enter real quick. There we go. Okay, cool. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. So basically what is happening is that your VLOOKUP is, so actually I'm going to back up one step. So Google Sheets, as much as we want to have it do the thing that we want it to do, we actually have to be like explicitly specific. So you told it to look in column A, it's only going to look in column A. And so column A doesn't have those scores. It just has names. So if you want it to give you a score, that means you have to include both column A and column B.
Got it. So it looks at, for all of the formula, it only looks at that range, not
Yes.
just the.
Exactly.
And then I don't understand why they don't default so that it always sorts the data for always. Like, why do they give you that option?
What do you, for which part?
That
is sorted?
Yeah.
So my experience with this one, it's in brackets, which means it's an optional input, I guess. I'm gonna call it input. Optional input. Anything in brackets in that pop-down window means you don't technically have to include it for the function to work.
Oh.
My experience is that sometimes when I'm running a VLOOKUP on a bigger set of data, sometimes it works perfectly well with false. And maybe Zachary or Ariana, maybe you have better info on this, but sometimes I do have to set it to true. It seems to be a little bit more finicky. I tend to set it to false, especially because this isn't alphabetized and it is not numerically organized, but you don't have to include it if you don't want.
Right. It seems like it would just be like, it would be making it go faster if it knows, like, once it found something, it could just exit rather than having to search through the whole list if you're telling it it's sorted or something. I don't know. Anyway.
No, you're fair. I find sometimes it like finds a different value if I set it to true. If it's like a bigger set.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to give you the best I have. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate it. It's confusing to me.
Yeah. Try it without.
Okay.
See what happens. Just try it. This won't hurt us to try stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to get out of your spot though so you can make edits as you need.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry. I was in your spot.
I don't know about how it was for the students, but swapping between the Zoom and the actual spreadsheet, because you're sharing the screen, I'm like, am I in that one or am I in mine? So I keep getting confused about where I am.
I think that's a fair point. Oops, somebody just edited my pretest score.
I wish I had another monitor, but I only have the one, so that's the toughest tech wise
For sure.
right now.
For sure. You may want to try split screening if that's an option. That might be the easiest way, and then shrink one down.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have enough room for that. But yeah, I just started using the Chrome split tab.
I love those.
Yeah, that's been helping me a lot.
Yes, I've been showing.
But I have the Zoom app, and then I don't know how to combine that into, I don't think I can combine that because I'm not using the browser for the Zoom meeting. I'm using the app.
It depends what kind of computer you have, but some of them.
Okay,
have.
never mind. I feel like I'm taking over.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I haven't been using XLOOKUP as much, but I feel like I need to get involved in it. I feel that. Brendan, sorry.
I probably missed this when you said it earlier, but why, for the Candace formula, why do you have 2 in there?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it again. So I'm going to just delete mine. So the reason for the 2 is, I'm just going to restart it. So equals VLOOKUP. So first things first, right? I need to put in Candace. And then I like to follow exactly the pop-up. I don't have to memorize stuff. It's right there. And it has a comma. I make a comma. And then we're putting in the range. And then the index, that is what you wanted to give back to you. So when it has 2 columns, it seems like a little bit sillier, right? But let's say you had a big table and you had a student ID, for instance, and you wanted it to come back with a birthday, which is like way down in the rows or in the columns. So you'd want to tell it to come back with that specific column, right? If you were looking for birthday, not pretest, not address or phone number. So you'd need to be able to tell it exactly which column you want it to give you that information from. So in our case, we only have 2 columns. And so column 1, and so we want it to come back with the information in column 2. And so that's why you're telling it column 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So it seems a little silly with 2, but when it's big, it makes more sense.
I think it's useful to note that the first column has to be what you're looking up,
Yes.
and then it's columns from there. So that is your first column.
Oh, wait.
So in this case, column 2 is the pretest score.
Yeah.
Looks like XLOOKUP doesn't require a position. Is that right, Zach? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna defer to Zach for all XLOOKUP because I haven't used it enough. I'm gonna make the students figure it out on Friday. That's what we're gonna do. Okay. How is it going? Any other questions that people are having? Ooh, I see some people getting to R where you're combining things. I also see somebody considering a different strategy than a VLOOKUP strategy. Interesting. If you're going to go that way, I highly recommend setting it up as a function anyway.
Are you talking about mine?
Yes.
No, that's multiple VLOOKUPs with text combined.
Oh, it ties. Thank you. Sorry. This is what I get for not clicking on it. That's my bad. See, didn't click on it.
I was writing out the calculation and then the answer,
Very nice.
but all by looking up.
I like that. That's cool. All right. That looks cool. Other things that people are noticing that are standing out to you. I'm going to give us another maybe 2 minutes to explore. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the mode?
Yeah.
When it gives the hint, it doesn't say the word range. It just puts a list there. Is that always, it can be a range? Because I just selected the range.
Yeah. So for most of these, it will do that where it gives you the option to put a bunch of stuff next to each other. Whether you're doing mode or average or sum or honestly any of them, it lists it in this format where theoretically what you could do is, this is going to be real slow, but I'm going to do it. I could do comma, right? This is really slow. But you could. And if they weren't next to each other, right, you could do a very strange collection of data points that you just wanted all together and find the mode of that or the average of that or whatever it might be. But because these are next to each other, you have the added benefit of just doing a click and drag.
So it's just because we had a range that we could select that we were able to substitute the individual values for the range. Is that
Yeah. Otherwise, you could theoretically just do this, but this is pretty slow to do it this way.
Yeah. No, I just didn't understand the help text. Like if
Yeah, understandable. I'll just throw in the average. The average one looks the same too.
I see. Because you had given us the formula, I didn't even look at it.
No, that's okay. This is a great question.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Other things that we're looking at, other things we're thinking about.
In column J, I'm embedding the sort function in.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, I ended up making that as a slightly later step for them, but we did also end up doing that as well as they learned how to do stuff. Okay, so I'm going to have us pause. You're welcome to come back here. This is an open spreadsheet. I have more things to show you on here in just a moment, but I want us to take one moment. I have a whole bunch of stuff hidden for you. I also grabbed some of my student work to show you. So as we shift out of practice and trying stuff out, take a look at the second tab that's opened up. It's at the bottom. This was another thing we had to learn was how to use tabs. It took us a bit. We got there. And so I've grabbed some data from some of my students. They had to learn how to put summary tables together when they're given in this kind of messy format, what to do, how to combine it. This is where you'll see that sort come in right here, but we can take 1 or 2 minutes to just kind of look through. Some of these are done, some of these are not, and I left them that way on purpose so you could kind of see progress and challenge. So feel free to go exploring. And I did not, they chose those colors. This was all them. So feel free to go and take a look. It goes pretty far over all the way through to column BS. Yeah, they are super enthused about their fonts. It's really nice. I actually really like that they individualize. I like when they individualize my worksheets when they turn them in. I think that's really fun. And some of them, I'm just gonna, not trying to give anybody vertigo. So sorry. Bane is having things move. Is they also were challenged to start thinking about how to just do simple subtraction. They could do functions, but now how do you just do just much more basic stuff about doing a subtraction problem or doing a percent change and using it for basic calculations that aren't more complex. And so I had them start embedding that as well in here as they're thinking about it and making a table that's a lot easier to read than scrolling. Okay. So I'm gonna have us maybe bring ourselves back to our shared screen. So thoughts, things that kind of stood out to you, anything that came up for you?
For me, I think this illustrates that maybe some of the same challenges that students have are some of the same challenges that older adults would have. So I don't think that we're as far apart in tech skills as we might think we are.
I think that's true. I think that's a nice empathetic thought. I like that. Other thoughts, whether you're a teacher or not?
Yeah, I feel like because I teach in-person class, not online, when I see students that they have different skill abilities, maybe I can get little helpers for myself because I also have a class of 34 students. So I can start arranging them, group them with like one little like a teaching assistant, something like that. And they can help the students who are struggling. So I can have less frustration because I can sense it can be like very frustrated for some students.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Grouping them, giving that space for them, for sure. I think in person, you have a little bit more opportunity to actually stand next to them and see how they're typing it and what they're putting in. I'm having to wait for them to press enter to get them to show me what they wrote. But yeah, for sure. We also struggled with adding columns, how to merge, how to just format cells. All of those things we taught one by one. That was part of this whole process.
How much does Gemini come into play in terms of figuring some of this out?
I asked them not to use any software. They did all of it by hand. I watched them type it.
But maybe even about understanding the functions or
I didn't ask them for that, but that is an option to think about. I really wanted them to understand the structure and how they work and how to troubleshoot it on their own prior to building in, like asking AI to support that. But that does make sense once they're a little bit further along if they're trying to do something more complicated. I think that's a good idea. And also using it in an effective way. So, for sure.
maybe a corollary question, but Zach shared like the X lookup, the more larger question. Are you introducing them to those help sheets and like that they can look up some more detail about that? Or there are even some like sites that let you sit and play with different functions and things.
So we as a school don't assign very much outside work. And so I tend to be really focused on what we're doing there, but I do give them resources if they want to go explore. I had a parent tell me that she's learning this at the same time she's going to school. And she said that she was talking to her son about how they could watch YouTube videos together about learning functions, which I thought was like the coolest thing. So I think there's also just like an opportunity for that too, where they're either utilizing resources online or with their families. I wasn't quite expecting that, and it was really cool to hear that was happening. Yeah. Other things that stood out. So where I thought this would go from here, I cannot think of the word right now, but spaces where you can ask questions and get help. I'm sorry, my brain cannot think of the word, but thank you. Forums. I definitely use a ton of forums myself when I need help to make more complicated functions. So there's all sorts of opportunities. So where I thought that this would go, I downloaded a set of data that once they were comfortable with understanding how to analyze more simple data, they might want to think about something a little bit more complex. This was lead testing in children under 5. This is usually a big topic of conversation, especially around public schools in New York City. So this was one option that they might want to think about. But there are lots of options, right? So as they build in skills, there is opportunity for them to make choice, right? They can go to Open Data and find something that is more relevant to them or that they find that are really interested in learning about. And so that gives them agency. They can figure out what to do with that. They could choose the size of the data set. And so I grabbed 2 just to look at. I looked at special education programs and I looked at elevated lead, both of which are relevant to my subset of students. But as you've seen on Open Data, if you've logged in at all, there's tons. And so I thought that'd be really great for them to start putting those pieces together. The other direction is to analyze a survey of their peers or of their family to really try to figure out if they could start making connections between them. And that was a way that we've been looking at what can we start understanding about our population. So one of the easiest ways that we've been doing that is doing like a basic relationship correlation. How many people chose this flower and also like this thing, and having them see if they can find the biggest number in common as a way to just start understanding how correlations and relationships work, which has been really cool as well. So that's where I was thinking this could head to. Any additional thoughts or different ideas where you could take it? Where this ended up with my students, out of all my classes, like trying different strategies for Socratic seminar, for trying different ways of engagement, this class has been the most engaged. They might not always unmute in my chemistry class, but they always unmute when we do this. They stay late. My class is the last class of the day. It is an hour instead of 45 minutes, and we end at 3:15, and frequently we are there until 3:20, 3:25, almost every single day, because we have lost track of time and are just continuing to work. They are just like zoned in. One day, my principal came to my class and we were so focused, we genuinely did not notice that she had come into our class. Not a single student noticed. It was amazing. I asked them, I was like, did you see her? And they're like, what are you talking about? We were just like, and so it's been really helpful. I've also talked about how this is like a job building skill and they talk to each other, they help each other out. I see them using the chat to correct each other's formulas and to offer support. It's been you would think that it might go into frustration and give up, but it has actually gone the other direction for them, where they are willing to struggle and willing to try and keep pushing anyway. And that's been really cool to see. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really great strategy to think about databases and lookup tables. Yeah, and also a bridge into advanced research skills. I like that. Other thoughts that would come up for you, or that how you might see employing either Google Sheets or open data into your spaces? So I wanted to give space for thoughts, questions, feelings, whatever might come up for you. It's a good opportunity to think about it, whether you have a project you're considering or how you want to get your students also to start using Google Sheets. I'd love to hear it. Yeah, go for it.
I do think this is great in a sense that I think learning how to use a program can create a lot of agency for students, especially in an age when people feel like they can just, if they want to code, they can just get a chatbot to do it for them.
Yeah.
I think there's a real thing also just for adults to have the agency to actually do it yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's true. I am trying to get a group of them to lead a PD for the other teachers in my school and see if, one, that builds even more confidence, but two, I do think that many adults are also still learning about how to utilize this effectively, and it would be really great to have this kind of turned around where our students are now teaching other people how to do it, and I think that'd be cool. Yeah. Other things? Anybody get really frustrated? My contact info is here. I'm always happy to talk about stuff. And this was super cool. I appreciate you all coming. If you have other thoughts, you are welcome to share them. Yeah, go for it.
I'm so sorry. I'm not a teacher, full disclosure here. But I was wondering, do you get pushback from like the math teachers thinking like they should be doing these formulas, they should be calculating this themselves versus using a program like Sheets?
That's a good question. So our school is based on like an interdisciplinary strategy, like a format, which is a little different than other schools. But I work with the math teacher during this time period. And so she also teaches this in different times of the year. But I think that having the skills, I haven't gotten any pushback from anybody, but I am noticing that.
I'm actually glad to hear that. My feeling about using a calculator, how much more you can do if you're not worrying about, oh, I added two numbers together wrong. If you know what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Sure.
But anyway, thank you.
No, that's a good question. I think it still requires them to understand if you're asking them to find the average, they still have to somehow, not everything is as obvious as the word average for average. Some are a little bit more complicated. So I think.
And you still have to know what it means.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what good is putting it on your chart?
For sure. But also, what if you did a typo and got a weird number? You got to know why it's weird.
Right.
For sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And do you see this being able to be used for other Google apps, Google Slides or that kind of thing? Because I'm working with other adults in my job that I think it would be helpful for them to have these skills, but they don't. And they're not.
That makes sense. I haven't done it for slides just because our students did come in. They seem to spend a lot of time on slides from prior school. So I don't tend to do as much on there, but I could see how you could convert this to doing like a template on a slide and give them space to practice and play with it.
Yeah. Sorry, I think that was a giveaway from my age.
No.
When I went to school, we never got to use slides.
No, I think it's new for almost everybody except the current students that are in there right now.
Yeah, thank you again. This was really I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
you.
thank you. That's so nice. Hi, I'm glad we're both MFAs. That's awesome. Yeah, anything else if you need anything? Hey, Brian?
I just wanted to shout out the noticing the error, or at least figuring out if you have the right answers so that you can do a self-check is a very important skill. Not just passing over and thinking, yep, done. Making sure that you actually check back in the data that is the answer you should have been getting.
Yeah, I think that's also the reason I kept it to 10 because it's super easy to eyeball 10 pieces of data than 100 or whatever. And because I made it all teachers' names, it was fun to be able to call them out. So what did this person get on their pretest? And it was silly at the same time. And I did have to tell them not to go and tell their teachers how bad or good they did because these were fake. But I put them in an inside joke too with that. So it was helpful for them to be part of it for that. Yeah. Anything else? You're welcome to reach out if you need anything. I love making Google Sheets of all sorts of varieties and database formats and make them for other teachers in the school. I'm always happy to troubleshoot and work together on stuff.
Thank you so much, Ethel. This was great. Yeah, there's no other comments and everything. I think this was very informative. Thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you. You too.
Ooh. And in terms of data, do I get to see the survey results?
That is something we can talk about sharing. Yeah.
It's open data.
Therefore, we can absolutely share that with you.
That would be cool. I'd love to see it. What really it's going to happen is I'm going to share it with the students.